ما أريد من هذا الشعب إلا أن يزيد في الحمد والشكر إلى الله عز وجل، ويزيد من محبة الوطن، ويزيد من العمل ومضاعفة العمل لما يسعى فيه من خير له وللدولة والأهل. هذا اللي أنا أدوره من الشعب، وربنا إن شاء الله يوفقنا جميعا على ما يحب ويرضى.
تقرب منازلها إلا محب زايد أسسها واليوث وراها داروا على الدانات 7 أبد. إلا دار زايد لا تقرب حماها، لا تقرب منازلها إلا محب زايد أسسها واليوث.
One thing that I really appreciate is the type of initiatives that the leaders have put in place for startups and entrepreneurs to be able to build businesses and to help guide on how to expand them internationally. Us ourselves as Qashio, we're part of both Hub 71 and Dubai Founders HQ, which we have graduated from both of them. And the learnings that we learned there have allowed us to bring our business internationally and expand further.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of Pearls of Union. Today we're meeting another pearl in this union, Mr. Armin Moradi, the founder and CEO of Qashio, a fintech company, and we're going to learn more about it with him. Hello, Mr. Armin, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us more about your personal story, your educational process, and how did you get to this position today?
I studied at Uppsala University in Sweden. I studied media and communication science, and I also studied finance. Later on in my career, I worked with a software company called Oracle with financial solutions targeting banks primarily, and that's where I identified the gap that we as a fintech could cover for. Several years later, there was a fintech revolution in the early 2020s, and that's when I jumped on the bandwagon to start Qashio.
That's amazing. So what's some of the exceptional experiences that you went through in your journey?
I think the most important learnings that I had while working at Oracle was how modern technology didn't necessarily change the way that banks operates, and ultimately the bank's clients did not receive what they were actually looking for. So taking the other way around and actually listening to what clients are looking for instead of what the software companies tell the clients that they should use, it helped me tremendously in building a company where we serve the clients and not a software.
Of course. Is there any other skills or values that you learned in this training?
Work hard, of course, but also constantly be curious. Just because you do not get the answer you're looking for does not mean that the answer does not exist. It's all about learning how to research and find information rather than accepting the answer that is given to you.
Of course. So is there someone who supported you throughout this journey?
Of course, a lot of people. I don't know, how much time we have, but there's a lot of people. I would say there's one particular person that really helped me early on in my career. Her name is Olga. She was my manager. She taught me how to not be emotional, but to be practical. I think that was someone that was incredibly important to me. And then later on, as I continued in my career, my current chairman, his name is Antoine Massad, who have significant experience in the finance industry, also invested a lot of time in helping me understand how to run the business, I would say.
Of course, that's really nice. Thank you for telling us more about yourself. And now I would like you to tell me more about the company itself. What's the vision behind it? How did it pop up in your head? And how did you fix it up until it came to this kind of a big company today?
Sure. So I used to work as a finance director for a relatively large company within both retail and F&B. And during my time there, I kind of remember how I said it was important to look at what the client wants out of technology instead of a technology company telling what a client should have. At this point, I was a client and I couldn't find the type of technology that we have. I looked across the world and I saw that recently, very recent from this is in 2021, very recent from that time, there was a couple of global companies doing what we are doing today. And I thought they are going to struggle to enter into this market because this market is different from Europe or the United States or Singapore even. So, jumped on the entrepreneurial wagon, took the risk and thought this will be a good idea. And that's how the idea came to.
Of course. Why did you choose UAE basically to start it up?
I mean, I lived here to start with. But I also saw, you see, the very interesting part of UAE is the software and the banking sector here is quite fragmented, and this is true across the whole region. That the banks here do not follow. I mean, recently we've seen different initiatives from both SAMA in Saudi and a central bank here in UAE to kind of unify processes to simplify it for the banks to operate. So it made a lot of sense to go into a fragmented industry and look for the gaps that the banks do not cover for or do not want to cover for, to start a company to supplement them, not to replace them and try to be better, but to find a gap that they do not serve. And that's why I believe UAE became very important. We obviously operate now in 32 countries. We also are available in all of EU and the UK as well. But UAE has been our main focus for the last 4 or 5 years.
Of course, but this sector in the UAE specifically is like a really challenging and competitive sector. So what differs your organization today from other organizations in the UAE?
It's true, it's very challenging, and there is a lot of companies that are trying to enter internationally, but also existing companies that are really good at what they do. I find it quite important to have strong competitors because that forces you to remain curious. If everything was easy, we would not progress. One thing that we do, we constantly look at international businesses, having an office in Europe to be able to look at that market, which is evolving faster. It's a much larger market. We kind of try to replicate what they do there, but add the flavor that we require for UAE to be able to operate here.
Of course, but since we mentioned challenges, what are some of the challenges you're facing today and how are you facing them?
I think the biggest challenge that I have, and this is not a business challenge, I would say this is a challenge in time where if we look at the previous generation, we look at the way that the millennials, I would say, or the generation prior to that, how they operate and how they think and what their expectations are, versus the workforce that exists today, which is the Gen Z, generation. They want different things than the previous generation, to try to balance the experience of the older generation with the knowledge of the younger generation, because they are far more technically advanced. They are far more creative. To be able to balance what they need to be able to be successful versus what I am used to be able to be successful is definitely the biggest challenge that we face as an organization. We really want to make sure that we take advantage of the younger generation's experience and their accelerated way of learning. They're so fast in learning, while the experience and the boring part of the older generation is still being executed because it's a boring sector that we operate, and we have to take that into consideration.
I think it's a good thing if you know how to work with it, right?
Yeah, if you know. But it's a learning experience.
Of course. So are you having any expansion plans for the organization?
Yeah, so we recently launched together with Investopia and with the support of the Ministry of Economy here in UAE, in Dublin. We set up a headquarter for Europe there, so to be able to operate in all of EU and the UK. We are also looking into launching in Saudi Arabia next year. We've been working on that for many years. It's a very difficult market to enter with our type of product. And then we're also looking at probably North America and South America and Asia as well to further expand our solution.
That's really nice. Since you mentioned products, can you tell us more about the services and products that you offer?
Sure. In the simplest way, we currently provide a software where our clients who are businesses are able to issue corporate credit cards, a lot of them. So you don't need to apply one card at a time. A company passes a KYC process with us, and then they are in full control of creating as many corporate cards as they want for their employees. And then they can use it for various type of business expenses. And all of those expenses that they do as a business, they will then be able to earn rewards. And these rewards can then be converted into Emirates Skywards miles for the business owners, or they can get cash back for the business, or hotel points for conferences, and so on. So it's almost like having a personal benefit card, but for a business.
That's really nice. Thank you for telling us about the company. That was an amazing company and vision to know about, actually. Lastly, do you have any advice for the younger generations who are interested in this sector?
Absolutely. I think the most important thing is to not focus on aura farming, but focusing on farming your own experience and remain curious.
To conclude, Mr. Armin, you mentioned that you've lived here before and you started up your business as well here in the UAE. So would you like to give a message or a word to the leaders and the country today?
One thing that I really appreciate is the type of initiatives that the leaders have put in place for startups and entrepreneurs to be able to build businesses and to help guide on how to expand them internationally. Us ourselves as Qashio, we're part of both Hub 71 and Dubai Founders HQ, which we have graduated from both of them. And the learnings that we learned there have allowed us to bring our business internationally and expand further.
Of course. Thank you so much, Mr. Armin, for having us today and telling us about the company. And to conclude this episode, thank you our audiences for watching. Today we learned more about Mr. Armin and Qashio as well to benefit you and your future to know more about it as well. We'll see you on the next episode of Pearls of Union.